use LinkedIn and Twitter on a regular basis, and I'll share many stories of why I think Twitter is really important and why we should consider using Twitter throughout our marketing plan. 316 million registered users. And depending on the day, there's a lot of activity. As you can see, over 500 million, I always want to do the Austin Powers, million tweets per day, right? That's crazy. How do we keep up with that much content, that much information, being flung at us? And I'm going to give you some tips and tools that we can use and turn it in. I'm going old school. I'll call it a radio dial. Right? I can dial in and say, no, I only want to hear these things. I don't want to hear about Kim Kardashian, right? I want to make sure I'm using this from a business standpoint. So we'll talk about some tools that will be able to help through and be able to make sure that we're getting out of it what we want out of it. Because you don't have to be barraged by the 500 million tweets that happen, per day. That can be extremely overwhelming. Average user has about 208 followers. And we'll go through the language for some of us that haven't started inside of this. We'll go through the different language that we have in there. And so Twitter, I always say, is kind of like a cocktail party, right? You go to a cocktail party and you can jump conversation. 1 minute you're talking about family and what's going on. Another conversation you may be talking about business and partnerships. So if you're been to a party or a networking event and you're just kind of jumping conversation, right? That can happen inside of Twitter. So back to dialing it in and deciding how you want to use it. Do you want to use it from a personal standpoint? Do you want to use it from a business standpoint, or both? And then having that plan of how you're going to use it. With you, action plan. If it's not in your calendar, it's not going to happen. These things do not just magically appear. They're not rainbows and unicorns, right? Just how we have to be very strategic about our business development time, our working in the business and on the business. Having that content planning in our calendar is really critical. It's just not going to magically appear. So let's do some verbiage breakdown. What is, all these different things that, are happening inside of Twitter. So there is a retweet, which just simply meaning I'm repeating what someone else said in Twitter. So, maybe Carla had sent out something, I really liked what she said, and I'm going to hit a little button. Again, I'm showing you exactly where that button is. And I can hit that little button and just all I'm doing is retweeting what she actually shared. And so I'm in that by retweeting, I'm giving her credit, right? So I'm not stealing what she's done. I'm making sure that it's information that I found helpful. I wanted to be able to share that with her or with my audience. Direct messages. So there are direct message capability inside of Twitter where it's a one-to-one, not to one to millions, right? One to many, and you can send a private message. Just be extremely careful of what bucket you're in when you go to do that. I've seen people send private information through just Twitter, not knowing where to actually send the actual direct message. And again, people don't do a very good job of managing their inboxes in some of the social media tools, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, right? How many times have you sent a message and that thing grew mold and rotted? Right, because you're waiting for them to respond. So if you can reach out to them in just their regular, email or other methods, there's still this fantastic technology called a telephone, right? We can still use that. It still works. So just being aware that if there is something, especially with a sense of urgency, that you really need to get someone's attention, just making sure that you're using methods that they're going to respond to pretty quickly. So just knowing that there are two areas, that is a private and a public area inside of Twitter. Following and followers, right? So I am following over 5,000 people, and I have over 5,000 followers, right? So following means I'm going out and finding people that I like what they're doing, I want to stay plugged into what they're saying. And these can be individuals, so find people in your industry that are industry leaders, right? Find, different, companies that you just like to be in the know of what's going on. Like I like following, Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Fast Company, Inc. And so the nice thing about Twitter and why I had a little mini heart attack is I use it to read a lot of information before I start my day. So I'm, the weirdo that, goes into Twitter in the morning before starting my day and kind of just scanning down through there and seeing, is there anything that happened over the last 24 hours that I need to be aware of, right? It allows me to kind of have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. So I'm not having to go individually to Harvard Business Review, Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, on and on and on. I don't have to go to 22 different sites to gain information. They're all sharing their articles in Twitter, so I can just simply go in and follow them and be able to digest even more content. Yeah, so I use TweetDeck for that. So you can, and we'll talk about, there's the tools. So any dashboards, TweetDeck, Hootsuite, you can actually create columns and identify what columns, back to that radio dial, I can dial in and say, I only want this kind of, content. And so I can say, baseball, and, have that. I can start a list for baseball and then pull that list in, inside of that tool to be able to only see that area. All right, URL shorteners. You're going to see that a lot. You're going to see some goofy links that may cause you a little, like concern, like, wait a minute, that's probably, spam or something. They're just URL shorteners because we only have 140 characters, to leverage. Twitter is talking about maybe trying to take those character limits off and taking them to 10,000 characters. I hope they don't do that, because then we're just going to fall into other tools. The shortened version, to me, is what makes Twitter different. It's a very mobile platform, so a lot of the users do use it through mobile, and it was designed at 140 characters because of being able to do text messaging and things like that. So they were trying to keep it really short. I like it because it's just short and sweet. I don't have to get super wordy about being able to share that. It's a great distribution point for content. So when you write that blog post on your website, being able to share it inside of Twitter to give more life to that blog post is a fantastic way to leverage it as well. So mentions, you can say mentions or tags, is the little @ symbol. Right? The little @ symbol. So if I wanted to go in and send a message to Greg, and I wanted to make sure he saw it, and I'm okay with sharing it, publicly, like, so today I could go in and do the little @ symbol, find his, account, and, start typing. It'll auto, like if he and I are already following each other in Twitter, he's following me or I'm following him, when I do the @ symbol and type in GRE, it starts auto-filtering the people that I'm following, and I can find his account and select his account. So then he's going to get a notification that I, mentioned him. So I can say, today, great seeing you today, I start typing Greg, get his Twitter account, and, and sharing that, right? So that's what we mean when you hear the word a mention or a tag. It's using the @ symbol, and that's their Twitter username, right? So everyone has a Twitter username. They needs to be simple. It can only be 14 characters. So for some of us that were in the one category that we haven't started a Twitter account, we're here just to learn to make sure if it makes sense for our business or not. Making sure that it's something that's easy to remember. I personally like just using the name for a personal account, and then for your business account, making sure it's the shortened version. If your name is going past those 14 characters. So I say from an individual standpoint, be careful not to call yourself Monkey Dobo 07, right? That's not a good kind of from a branding standpoint. So just making sure we're using something that's really easy to remember, and people are going to recognize, as they move through that. Hashtag is simply there just to categorize the tweet, right? So, today I shared that you can use, if you want to follow along and share little nuggets, that you can do hashtag eKickStart. Right, so we're able to follow other people that are sharing that and respond, to them. Or if you have a job posting in your organization, you can, have a link to the job opening and go hashtag job. I would actually take that all the way down to hashtag Cincinnati, right? If I'm hiring here, go ahead and hashtag that, because there are people on the other side that are looking and using those hashtags to find jobs and/or in location. Yeah, so the nice thing is you don't have to do character count. Twitter will do it for you, right? Like as you start typing, it starts counting backwards of, okay, you only have 2 more characters that you can use in this. So you don't have to be counting. So thank goodness, they do that for us. All right, we feel a little bit more comfortable with what the heck a hashtag is. Any questions about that? I don't want to just blur over it, because it really is a great way to find content and to be discovered yourself, right? One of the things, little asterisk to hashtags, please research the hashtag before you use it. All right, why am I passionate about this? Domino's used a very negative hashtag in their tweets. There was one called hashtag why she left. And what they didn't do was take literally 60 seconds to go research what that hashtag actually meant, and it was about domestic abuse, right? So please, please, please research hashtags before you use them and make sure they're in line with who you are and your brand. They had tweeted out, he didn't have pizza, hashtag why she left, right? So that blew up in their face, right? So we have to research these hashtags before doing. All right, how can Twitter help you, right? So we kind of talked about, why, what is it, and so how can it help? It's fantastic for staying top of mind with either current, customers or clients, and or prospective customers and clients. There's many, many wonderful ways that, being able to leverage that. So, sharing that distribution, listening. And I always tell people when they first start using Twitter, just simply listen. Go listen in on conversation, because then you can get a feeling of, oh, okay, this is how this dialogue kind of happens, or this seems to be what certain content, resonates with people, right? And it's a fantastic listening tool, being able to listen and monitor, inside of Twitter. All right. Industry news, like I said earlier, there is no way I could keep up with all the information, of everything that's going on in digital. It changes on a daily basis. And so being able to tap into industry folks and industry magazines, they're all sharing stuff in Twitter, so I can be in the know of what's going on. It just is a fantastic way. I read a lot. We all have to read a lot so we can stay up on what's going on, what trends are out there. And so being able to use it in that manner. Greg was just saying, he's like, I just got to follow my top 5 like car companies that I'm just really passionate about. And so we were talking about that, and I was telling him how I use for the multiple sites that I always get great information of, from Forrester and Gartner and the Pew Institute, right? So going through and being able to digest all that content very quickly. I don't have time to go look at 22 different sites to be able to glean some information from that. Twitter allows me to do that, and allows me to do it very, very quickly, so I can digest even more content. Connecting with public relations and editors. There was, and they're all in Twitter, they're all looking for another story, right? Don't be afraid to reach out to them and find them and follow them and engage with them, because that's going to be part of the relationship building. One of the local editors here in the Business Courier several years ago had tweeted out, is anyone using social media for recruitment? And I just happened to be following him. I sent him a note and gave him a couple of clients I was working with that were having great success using social media for recruitment. And he reached back out, and we scheduled interviews with those 3 companies. Not only were they in the paper itself for Business Courier, but they also did the U.S. Bank Business Watch on Sunday. They were in an interview because of one tweet. Right? Because I just happened to see it, respond that, hey, I have 3 companies that are doing it, and they were able to get, and that's, free. I'm all about free. Like if it's free, it's for me, right? And so just know in building relationships, don't you dare pitch them, right? That's not, what they're there for, but to start building those relationships of following them and engaging with them. And engaging means, sharing their articles, liking their articles, right? Building that relationship with them. And all the search capability inside it, you can identify and find all those folks very, very easily. Market yourself at live events, right? This is what we see a lot of times. So again, either you yourself and or your business. You can be at a trade show. You can be at the March 15th event and sharing pictures. And I always say, from a marketing plan, you need to have a before an event, during the event, and after event marketing, right? What I'm going to say before to lead people to that event, but then while I'm at the event, what am I going to do during the event? Is there an area that I can kind of have set up that maybe is a little photo photo booth, area, and people are going to be able to share that content, in their own social channels, so that way that event goes further than just the physical event itself. Right, so being able to do that live piece, and then also the follow-up pieces. So a lot of organizations I work with, they're good about that front end. They know about, okay, yeah, I gotta market before the event, but they actually forget the during piece, and it's really critical to, hey, come see us at booth number whatever, or I'm over here. So making sure you do it throughout the whole process of those events and conferences. Increasing web traffic. So again, when I always tell people, start your content in your website first and then share it, right? And so if you have that blog post and sharing it, because we always want to be driving traffic back to our website. I get a lot of phone calls where people will say, gosh, our traffic's really down, I don't know what's going on. So I'll grab their LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, look at the last 10 posts, and what's shocking to me is they won't have one single link back to their website. Right? They're maybe curating content and sharing everybody else's content, or occasional something that they said at an event, or whatever. But not one of those links are actually coming back to their website. So they're not really doing anything to drive traffic back to the website. So make sure content starts at the website. The website, you own it, right? We don't own Twitter. We don't know the future of where Twitter's going, right? So I can't put all my eggs over in one basket. But you own your website. So always make sure and drive that traffic back to the website. That's your home base, and then everything else becomes distribution points. Google indexes everything in Twitter, so again, that's always a good thing. Anytime we can get some Google juice out of it, that's a good thing. Yeah, so you can schedule tweets. Right, so if you know that it's just going to kind of keep going down, I mean you could preload some scheduled tweets. I mean, I always say I still want you to be human. I don't want the whole thing scheduled, right? I still want the engagement piece. But if you're doing content planning and the next 15 days, you just need to go in, and so you can schedule them on certain days, certain times. So if you kind of already know that that's going to happen. I'm not sure about a template per se. We do content planning where we'll have like a Excel spreadsheet of days of the week, topics, and some of the content pieces, and so we're able to just pre-plan for all the things that we're going to do. So there's nothing really that you can save inside of Twitter, to do that beyond something that's scheduled. So there's certain things that that can be scheduled, but like I said, be very careful of doing nothing but what I call just pushing, right? So you're just sharing stuff in Twitter, but you're not really engaging. I can't stand it when someone follows me and I look and they have only followed 54 people, but they have 10,000 people following them. To me, when I see that they're not looking for a relationship. Right? If they're only them personally following 54 people, but they have 10,000 people following them, to me that's just a one-sided relationship. So that's why I always like to see that there's a nice mix. Now, I don't follow everyone back, right? Like I did an event and spoke in Cleveland, and a diner in Cleveland started following me. Okay, well, I don't live in Cleveland. I live here. I don't need to know the weekly specials. Thank you, so much for following me. I appreciate it, but I don't need to follow them back. So you do need to, from a Twitter strategy, decide what types of people you're going to follow back. But make sure it is a little bit close, right? When I'm looking at we don't want to be the variance of 54 to 10,000, but a little bit closer that you are looking to, it does say that you are looking for relationships, and a little bit more than just one way inside of Twitter. I can't stand, they're called auto responses. Again, when my first engagement with you was robotic, I'm going to automatically kind of discount you, right? I'm just automatically like, all right, well, they've just set up all this auto, and I truly want human connections. I don't live just in online. I have to make sure I also have some great offline relationships as well, and really getting to know people, and that's where business happens, right? These tools just allow me to open some doors that I may have not been able to open by myself. So do not do the auto respond. As soon as someone follows you, you send a note back to them, and it's all automatic, and it says, thank you for following me, right? It doesn't take you but 3 seconds to you just naturally doing that without using that tool. There's a bio right under, your company name or your name. It's 160 characters. use that space. So I see so many organizations, their information there will be just literally like an egg, right? Okay, you're not credible, and I'm not going to want to follow you back if you're just an egg, right? Take the time to either put, your little cute little headshot, or your logo if it's a company. But if your personal one needs to be personal, right? So it needs to be a person. I see mistakes of CEOs and business owners make their personal account a logo. Don't be the logo. If it's under you as a person, be that person. So use that characters. Do your location, your web link. That's just an opportunity to let people know, and for you to be found. So I can find, because I can search people's bios to be found. You can even use a hashtag inside of the bio. So again, making sure we have a good photo in there, and filling that piece out is really, really critical. The question is, can you change your Twitter name? And you can. So, but just as long as it's not already, taken. And so, but you got to be careful not to change it too many times, right? Because if I'm just trying to find you, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, what was his account again? And so, just being mindful, of that. So it's once you set it, it's kind of in concrete, right? Yes, you can change it, but be really mindful of that, and just making sure, because it'll tell you that one's already in use, so it'll tell you that. To send a tweet, there's this great tweet button on the top right-hand side, and it will, give you the little compose a message, right? So I can go and put in that information. So I can compose that tweet. I can add in a photo. I can add in a location, and there is another button on there from when I did these screenshots for polling. So you can do a polling question. Right? Do you like this or that? Click A or B, right? You can do some polling inside of that. So know that that's inside of Twitter as well. So being able to simply, hit that. Like I said, you get the character count. So it's already at, 127 because those, characters are there. It'll start, kind of clicking backwards. Who to follow, it'll give you some examples of, hey, here's some people based off the people you're following and engaging with that we think, might be, good people to go in and follow. You can use the search Twitter and start looking up, people. When you first start your account, it'll ask you if you'd like to auto sync, with your friends, right? So it'll look at contacts in your and see if there's some auto syncing that do they have, Twitter accounts. Right, so the who to follow, and then you can even, there's a view all, so it'll give even more using the the hashtag, and even the different ones. And I tweeted before we got started, the Hamilton County Business Twitter account and the Queen City Angel Twitter account, the hashtag we're using, and then also the Startup Cincy hashtag, and you can go through and search those, and then just start following those folks, because that there are other people that are other entrepreneurs that you would like to engage with. Right, so and the hope is when you start following people are going to follow you back. Right, that's the hope. It's not promised, but that's the hope. Right, there's trends. So what's trending from a hashtag standpoint? Usually on Monday it's Monday motivation or motivation Monday. There's different trends that happen, and this changes on a regular basis of what's hot. And back to being able to leverage some Twitter and kind of jump into some conversations that are happening, but again, make sure that it's something that is appropriate for you and your organization. So being able to do this and seeing all of that fantastic information. Notifications will let me know who followed me, who retweeted me, right? So I'm going to get those little notifications so I can go back and address and know when they've mentioned or followed, and it gives me a chance to follow them back, right? So notifications is something that I look at on a regular basis, making sure that I didn't miss something, because I want to be responsive. That's something that you do have to be mindful of in social media. If someone is following you or sharing your stuff, you showed your blog posts, and then someone starts sharing your blog posts, right? We need to thank them, we need to acknowledge them, right? Because we always want to foster good behavior, and so making sure we're doing that and doing it in a timely manner, right? Don't check Twitter, once every 2 weeks. that ship has sailed, right? You know, people do expect to kind of hear from you in a 24 to 48 hour, you know, time frame. Right, so just be aware that if you are engaging and sharing information, especially if you're in customer service type roles, then you got to be even more, within, the hour, kind of thing. So being really mindful of being timely. So again, like I said earlier, there's the little gray, and hopefully you guys can see it. This little gray is reply. I just want to reply and tell Lynn thank you. The little 2 arrows going over, that's retweet. What's a retweet mean? Say it again? Yeah, exactly. Kind of reposting what someone did, just repeating what someone did. And then now, it was a star, but now it's a little heart. And so a heart is, kind of, it's hard to say, like a like. So it used to be a star, and they changed it to a heart. I think there were better things that Twitter could have changed inside of this besides, the shape of the kind of favoriting someone. So you're letting people know, like, hey, I saw you, right? You're just kind of giving the little, the little heart. You're pushing the heart, like, hey, I saw you. It's almost like a little thank you. It's a little, like what you did there. Yeah. So when you're on, any site, right, or most sites nowadays, and you're reading an article, there'll be sharing buttons there. Right? And so when you're there and you're like, ooh, I really like this particular article, you can hit the little bird and, and tweet that, and it'll ask you, to log into your Twitter account, and it'll, share that article. But some of the advanced tools, I love Followerwonk. Is anyone using Followerwonk? It's just a fun tool. So I can search by location and or their bios, right? Remember the little, how important that little bio is? And so I can put in if there's a particular location or a particular kind of title, like keyword or something that I'm looking for, to go find those PR people or business courier or editor or the Inquirer, I can go in and use that. But Twitter chats is where I've been able to catch a lot more kind of followers, because you just start tapping in and having conversations along with the events. I have not paid $1 single to go and buy followers. Yes, you can buy them, but we have to be really, really careful about them actually being real accounts. I've seen the mistake of people doing that, for 27 bucks I can get 1,000 followers or whatever, but they tend to not be really in my specific audience. So be very careful about diluting your relationships inside of Twitter. I'd rather have 50 quality people that I'm engaging with and moving forward with than try to go buy thousands of people that I don't have really anything to do with, and they may not even be in my audience. So just be really, really mindful and careful of that. So some Twitter chats, I really encourage you to kind of check a couple of them out, look at some of the different topics that are out there. They're really, really engaging. They usually last about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and you're just kind of going back and forth inside of Twitter following that conversation. And you get to meet some people all around the world. Right? So you can set up a column and put your competitor's name in there. You can, certain topics that you want to follow, you can do that as well. Right? So TweetDeck is free. It's owned by Twitter. It was a separate company, but they bought them. I don't ever log into Twitter by itself. I actually log into TweetDeck on a daily basis. I don't log into Twitter. This is so much easier for me. I can dial it in and get the things that I really want to get. Right? So I highly, highly recommend, especially as you start growing and engaging with a lot of people, it just makes it easier to manage. Make sure on your website you have those points of being able, those social sharing buttons that I was telling you about. Make sure and have those, on your website. So if you've got content that you want people to share, you want to make it super simple for me to come in, see that awesome article you shared or the awesome blog post, and make it shareable.